going on, Marcus? How you doing tonight?
Good, brother. How you doing?
I'm doing well. Hanging in there. What's going on, everybody out there? I see we've got some people in here already asking questions. Hope everybody's doing well tonight. So what's going on in your neck of the woods, Mark?
Man, just the other day I was watching something. I wanted to just hit me when I saw the Vampiro video where that was in Atlanta when I did that one particular Blockbuster in the video was Atlanta. And how I remember that, I've got no idea, but it was Atlanta. And so somebody sent a clip of, I think we posted it, where it's Buff Bagwell's, Blockbusters.
Yeah.
And I had a pretty hard day in the gym with my shoulder was hurting and back was hurting a little bit. And my knee, of course, is all jammed up. So, and then I saw the clip at the bottom of that clip. It said Blockbusters from 1997 to 2001.
Wow.
Can you imagine? Forget how many falls,
Sure.
chair shots, concussions, just Blockbusters. How many there had to be from 97 to 2001. It's crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, that's a high impact, especially when, there were times where you went off the top rope. I know usually it was the second rope, but
right.
I remember that, like with Lex, you did he lifted Goldberg up on his shoulders. You went off the top. That was a rough landing too. I remember that one from doing the edits here.
Yeah. Well, you remember we talked about that. That was the first time I'd done it off the top.
Right. Since the neck.
And well, I think what happened is Norton and a few of them, I had forgot about these, but Norton would hold some guys up and I would do the Blockbuster. Well, Luger came up with putting Goldberg on his shoulders, and I just wasn't prepared. And when he stood up, and I was already on the top rope, when he stood up with him, Goldberg was taller than me, while being on Lex's shoulders. And I went, Oh my God! And it's live TV, brother. So it was like, here we go, and it was an ugly crash.
Well, you cleared him at least, but yeah, it was a rough fall for sure.
It looked really good. It looked good because it was just a big crash,
Yeah, absolutely. I think that was, what was that? Would have been 98, 99, probably 99. Yeah, I remember. Yeah. It's a good one. So let's dive into some of these questions here. I see we've got some questions that somebody asked a question at 2:12 p.m. today. Let's see. And this is just one from Michael saying, longstanding fan from Europe. That's cool. At 2:12. So what time would it be in Europe? I guess it depends where you are in Europe right now, but it's pretty late. Well, I think London would be 16 hours ahead or something like that.
I know that this is a guy that contacts me and from the UK that's a big fan, and he is he says it's like after midnight right now. So I think it's 6. I think it's 6 in England. It's 6 hours ahead.
Oh, okay.
So about 2 in the morning, something like that right now.
Gotcha. What would be your dream match? From Pope James D. Nunn. What would be your dream match? I think we talked about The Rock was one that you always wanted to have.
Yeah, The Rock for sure is one of them. But dream match. I mean, really, The Rock just fits for the perfect match for me. He really does. Two body guys. He's not super tall. I could just see that our chemistry would work. We're shooting after the same things.
Right.
But Taker would be cool, of course. And,
absolutely. Now, did you ever come across him because he was WCW long before, well, I won't say long before, but right before Undertaker, but that probably was the year before you went to WCW, if I remember correctly. He probably would have been 90 in WCW as Mean Mark Calloway.
Yeah, he was there like the 89, 90 area. Okay. And I was breaking into the business, but independently, so right. I never met Mark for sure.
Okay. Yeah, everybody talks about him and Sting being the dream match, and I don't think many people realize that they had a match back then. But of course, he was Mean Mark at the time, and yeah, it would have been probably 1990 when they had that. And it was more or less the same question here, but let me put a spin on this, and this may be where he's going with this. What do you think would have been a dream match between WCW and WWE, and it doesn't have to be you involved in the match, but like take one person from WCW, one person from WWE, who would be the dream match there from, company to company?
Gosh, man. Me
I'm throwing the
too.
tough ones at you early tonight.
That is a tough one. It's a tough one. I mean, like, tell me what do you think? I mean, you got our top guys were like, I mean,
Sure.
like, let's go with right now.
Okay.
I mean, Goldberg against Gunther is incredible.
It is. It is. See, I have trouble. I don't know. I like Gunther. I think he's good, but to me, he's just not a top guy in my opinion. And I know there's people out there that will argue that with me. And I think it's just because I'm into, the older stuff, So anybody that's new, I mean, and you might relate to this. I just don't see it the same way as, younger fans, I suppose.
Right.
So
Well,
I think
my
it would be
thing,
good, but
yeah, my thing is that a lot of the guys that are over just aren't believable. They're just
right.
not. I'm the biggest Cody Rhodes fan there is, but at 205, 210, that's what I think he is.
Yeah.
It's not like seeing a big boy come out. And here, let me say this out loud. I'm not one of those guys, so let me clarify that. I'm saying your Lugers, your Goldbergs, your Brocks, your Triple H, your
Sure.
guys that are taller and bigger, 250, 260, your Batistas, those guys that are believable. And to me, Gunther is believable.
You're right. He is, and he's not one of those guys that's not believable. So yeah, I totally see that. I mean, even Cody. I'm a huge Cody fan, so I love what he's doing. I love what he's
I
always done.
love it, Seth. I love it. But
Right.
it just it does, and it did. I didn't think about this until The Rock was in there with them. It just looked like a pro wrestler was wrestling a couple of guys trying to make it.
Yeah, and well, you have
Size
different
wise.
right, and you have different eras of wrestling coming together side by side. So yeah,
Yeah.
100%.
And and back in the Nitro days and the Monday Night War days, we had monsters, man, Goldbergs, Lugers, Bagwells.
Yeah.
We had
Yep.
big boys,
Sure.
and and it was. And again, I'm not tall, so I'm counting me out of this equation. When I'm talking about, used to, brother, the rule was, I mean, a lot of guys don't know this, but the WWF, you had to be 6'3" or you didn't dial their number. They didn't accept you,
Right. Right.
and so it was a big man sport. And then it became, I mean, I was at the very beginning of kind of under 6 foot being accepted,
Absolutely.
and a lot of people came from that and did very well with it. But I'm a huge Seth and Cody fan, but don't get me wrong, I would love to see 20 more pounds on both of them.
Well, if you go back to, I remember when Sting and Seth did their match. I mean, when Seth was doing matches with Triple H, I mean, he was jacked, and now he's half of what he was back then.
Right.
And maybe that's, they're getting away from whatever they're taking to be bigger too. I
Sure.
don't know, but yeah, he's definitely, gone down in size here. And we do have one coming in from Cosmic Chris here. Met you in Maryland last week, which NWO meant more to you, Black and White or Wolfpack? So which NWO meant more to you, Black and White or Wolfpack? I always associate you with the Wolfpack. That's interesting. I always associate you with Black and White, but I guess it depends, when you were watching more. But which do you think would be? I don't know, which meant more to you?
That's a great question. It's a great question. I really believe that it's definitely Black and White. I really wish it would have never been the Wolfpack. I wish they
Really?
would have. I wish all we had to do is get the reins on the Black and White. I
Sure.
believe when the Wolfpack was formed with the red and black, it started splitting the team up, and you had who had the red and black on, and who had the black, and really it didn't. It was supposed to be kind of the Black and White was the B team, but that's not really what it was. I mean, Hogan wore the black and white off and on, and he would switch it up. And so
Right.
it really was just the NWO. But I really believe, the Black and White NWO for life. I mean, to me, that was the NWO. That was the best.
I agree. I mean, you can't deviate from the original, in my opinion. The original is always going to be the best. I mean, sequels never are better than, or usually aren't better than the
Right.
original film, and I think it's the same thing with the NWO.
Absolutely.
Now, here's a good question here from Walker 1984. Is it easier cutting a heel promo or a face promo, in your opinion?
Great question. Great question. Um, and it's a good answer, and it's accurate. 100% easier cutting a heel promo. When you're cutting a babyface promo, you've got to. There's rules. There's rules. You know, you've got to make sure you're, putting your opponent over. You got to make sure you're talking good to the fans. You got to have a certain tone about yourself. There's just rules to cutting a good babyface promo, and there's zero rules for the heel. Zero. It's just all it's about is just blasting the guy, and there is nothing that you got to worry about or add in there or make sure you're careful with. You can just blast them. Like I'm Bub on the stuff. You suck. Nobody cares
Right.
about you. See you Monday night. We're babyface. Hey, I'm Marcus Alexander Bagwell. I'm here for the fans, and we'll see you there. And it's a big difference, and it's much easier, swinging out a good heel promo than having to worry and step through that babyface one.
Makes sense. Yeah. So let me ask you this. When you have to cut a promo, whether it's heel or babyface, what happens before, the red light goes on? Are they giving you a paper that says you got to hit these bullet points? Or are they giving you a full on script, that you have to follow to the T?
Zero script. I only had to follow a script a few times, and it was with New Blood stuff. But zero wording in the old days. In the old days, you went to the South Tower, the CNN Center, WCW's home, and you were in the basement down there doing where all the production was, and you hoped that you didn't get behind the Steiner brothers, because it took a long time. They would mess up, and Disco used to do an imitation of Scotty doing an interview, and it was funny because he would say, "Me and my brother, beep, my brother and me, beep beep," and was having to beat him out from cussing. And so Scotty, man, what Scotty did with his interviews from those days to Big Papa Pump is unbelievable. Scotty's interviews are so great and they're so incredible. But in the early days, babyface interviews are hard. They're hard. But nobody taught me this. It's just what I did. So there is no reason or recommendation. I think somebody along the line kind of says, hey, this, and this. Really, there's only a couple things you look at. It's the date, the venue, what event it is, and then something about your opponent, and then an ending. And so the best lesson I ever got was from Flair, and he always said, tell the truth. And so if you can always tell the truth and tell it cocky, but as long as you're telling the truth. Hey, I'm Buff on the stuff. April 23rd, 2023. I'm in Atlanta, Georgia. The facts. List the facts, and then throw your attitude in there with it, the facts, and then some kind of close. And it always just went true to me with hearing that. Speak the truth, but then because you can always talk about the truth good because it's in your mind. Speak the truth, and then but just add your attitude with it, and it always comes out good.
I love that. Now, here's a great question here, and this is actually something that I thought might be a good video, just because I don't know much about the Battle Dome guys here, but I know that Terry Crews was one of them, if I'm not mistaken.
Sure.
How was it working with the Battle Dome guys, and was there an ending planned and it just stopped?
It's a great question. Do we know what year the Battle Dome thing was?
I've seen the video of that all over YouTube, but I have to look that up. I want to say it had to be like 99, maybe 2000, because I remember how Dallas Page looked in that segment. I'll see if we could find that here. Battle to
Reason I'm asking because, that went away and I didn't know why either, because it was a good little thing we had going with them.
Sure.
I'm not sure if it just something financially didn't work out or what, but
it was fall of 2000.
So you got to think about it. What month?
2000.
Okay,
fall. It just said the fall here.
Okay, so think about it. Within a year or less, it was over.
Yeah.
So who knows really why it didn't happen? Right. But we go to their show in L.A. and the first guy that comes out is it Mike O'Hearn?
I'm not sure. I only know Terry.
It's David or Mike O'Hearn.
Okay.
And he's just a super incredible looking bodybuilder cat. And I mean, gorgeous dude, blonde hair, perfect body, still looks incredible to this day. He's close to my age and he still is just ripped, shredded, and 250. And his last name is O'Hearn. And he came out with these 3 triplet blondes called the Dixie. I think it was the Dixie Chicks or Dixie Twins or something. And it was triplet girls, beautiful. And here comes this dude in white and a white cape. And I'm like, who is that? He looked incredible. These guys were really fighting and really, it was real. Battle Dome was real. They would have limitations on guys that came in with weight, limitations on height, but it was really $100,000 that the people were winning if they won. And they were really there to stop these opponents from winning the $100,000. And it was these crazy games with the spinning wheel and football and all that, like the gladiator stuff.
Right.
But man, we watched it. It was for real. And one of the segments was a real fight. And it was between Rick Steiner and Terry Crews. And it was the only time I've ever seen Rick Steiner a little bit nervous. And I remember looking at Rick's eyes and going, "Are you okay?" And he goes, "Yeah." I go, "Brother," "this is big." I said, "I'm not going to fight Terry Crews, but are you okay?" He goes, I got it. But he was really, for the first time I'd ever seen, Rick was a little bit out of his comfort zone. And Rick Steiner's never out of his comfort zone, ever, brother. So they tied up, and it was and Terry Crews was tough, brother. And they had the headgear on and all that, but it was a real fight. And we did some kind of work thing at the end to make it, wrestling kind of, but it was a real deal. And like I said, if you won that contest, it was $100,000 to the prize winner. So these guys were really out there. I mean, they're getting taped up. They got a trainer back there that's putting ice on things and taping things. And these guys, it was like a real football game for these guys. But nobody was making money. So Eric Bischoff made it very clear to us. He goes, "Look, guys," he goes, "these guys are bartenders, working to make $1. He goes, "You guys are superheroes making a lot of money. Don't get hurt. But we all were on that edge of getting hurt because we wanted to play too, but they were playing for real. And so I remember when they came to our company, I called them a bunch of queers. I said, "Y'all are just a bunch of queers." And here they come. And then, but I had Rick and Scott and Dallas.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I was like, "Come on, guys."
Before they jumped the barricade.
Yeah. But I don't know where it went because it was really hot and really cool. It was happening and it just kind of went away. But like I said, hell, within 8 months, it was over. So,
Yeah. All right. Now this is another great one from Kay Wallace here. Do you ever see a point where wrestling gets unionization, and would it help or hurt the business? I think this is a great question. I mean, very publicly, Jesse Ventura was advocating for this, I think mid 80s. I think actually prior to the original WrestleMania. So, I mean, this goes back a long time. And in 2024, there's no union for professional wrestlers of any kind still.
It's a great question. Fantastic question. I don't know of anybody that got screwed. I can tell you that. I know that everybody that I know, from all the horrible stories, from, you know, guys getting hit by cars on accident by the boys, and from me breaking my neck. I mean, it was not in anybody's contract that the boys get taken care of, but they always did take care of us. They really did. I mean, my neck break thing, I think it was a couple $100,000 it cost the company, and they took care of it. And didn't have to, you know, so there's a rumor that went around like only the top guys got taken care of and all that, but that really wasn't true. I know of a lot of guys that got big payoffs from racial things that they got paid off on, to injuries that they got paid off on. You know, anytime you deal with a major company like that, you're gonna have trash come in and have some things happen to where there was some payouts and stuff with HR. But overall, it was known, and I got a great answer for this. It was known that we didn't have any kind of union of any sort, and the answer is really simply simple. There's a simple answer why. In the NFL, there is 30 something football teams, and there is thousands of stars making thousands of dollars. In pro wrestling, there's two companies, or was, with minimal big money making stars. Right. So you'd have to get together with the minimal stars and say, hey guys, we know you're doing well, but don't you want to help get a union? Well, they're getting paid, so why would they want to rock the boat? And you don't, I wouldn't expect them to rock the boat. You got to have more top guys making top money to almost do a strike type thing and say, hey,
right. Yeah, that's what it would take.
We need a union, and we're going to strike until we do. And the NFL, if the NFL did that, it would, of course, they would have to do it. The problem with it not going to happen in wrestling is there's not enough people making that big dollar amount.
Right.
So
it makes perfect sense. I mean, what's Roman Reigns? I think we figured out was at like $5 million salary right now. So
right.
With what you're saying, I mean, why would he would be the person? He's the Hulk Hogan of today, right? He's the top guy in WWE. Right. He would have to step forward with the other guys and say, hey, we're not doing this until these guys that are making, you know, a tenth of what I'm making, you know, are treated fairly. Yeah. Right. I could see how that would be an issue. And
so, like,
clearly always has been.
Kevin Nash is a big advocate of this, and he was always wanting to do. As a matter of fact, we had a meeting. Eric Bischoff, Kevin Nash, Lex Luger, maybe even Sting, I'm not sure. They came to my house during WCW, my big home, nice big home that WCW built. Everybody came there to talk about this right here. Wow. And starting a company with doing this, with, you know, having everybody be equals, and it was, and we had a house full, a basement full of people talking about this. And to do something like this, you got to have a building full.
Right. That makes sense. I mean, yeah, there's always going to be people that are lower than you guys too, ready to step up. If, you know, hey, these guys are trying to get too much, we're going to put them aside. All those, you know, guys down low are going to, you know, get raised up. And I'm sure that they're willing to, you know, take that step upwards. So,
right. You're going to have a let's just call it a truckload. You're going to have a truckload of Roman Reigns to even start this. And there's not a carload of Roman Reigns.
Right. Very true. Now, and this, I guess, kind of plays off of the same question. Buff, did WCW offer you health insurance? So you would have been a 1099 with them, right? You were an independent contractor. So no health insurance?
I was a plumber coming to fix a pipe. I was an independent contractor. Now, the big stink we had about this was, can you drug test the plumber coming to fix your pipe? You can't. So why were they allowed to drug test us?
Right.
But when you're making $500,000 a year, you just do what I did and fake the test up here.
Right. Right.
You play the game. I mean, you just play the game, brother. It's that simple. I mean, they're playing the game. They're illegally drug testing us. We are an independent contractor. You cannot have the guy come into your house to do your trim work. You cannot have him drug tested. You can't do it. Not legally. So they can't legally do us that way, but they did. And so, no, but to answer your question, yes, it's exactly the same question with the health insurance. There's, again, you need a truckload of Roman Reigns to complain about the boys not having health insurance. And then you would have a little something to go at, but you don't have a truckload. We have a carload, and it's not enough. So the answer is no, nobody, not even Hulk Hogan, had health insurance with WCW. But again, they always took care of us. They always did. It was kind of like a handshake deal that no NFL player would ever sign, but it was a handshake deal that we got you, buddy. And they did. They really always did. They were there for a scope of a knee to a broken neck.
Now, did the injury have to occur on their time? Like, you broke your neck on Thunder. What
Yes.
What if you had blown out an ACL, on the golf course or at the gym? Is that something that they're going to consider, or is that on you because that's on personal time?
That's a good question, and that's where I meant a minute ago about the trash part of it. You're going to have some trash come in. There were some guys that got hurt and then tried to act like it was during the, during the time, and you're going to have that happen. But there was some of that. And, but normally, yeah, they were, like, for example, I got my cap implants, and they didn't have to pay anything. But I think I lost some TVs, and I didn't go to some TVs and stuff, and they didn't find me, So, and I got hurt off ground. So there was some kind of rule there. And when Watts came in, he did start something that I think was good, that I think needs to happen all over the world of sports. And that is, if you're not back within 6 months, your pay goes to half. And then if you're not back in a year, you're fired. Some kind of regiment like that, with these guys that are making $50 million a year to play ball, and they're sitting on the bench. I think their contracts should be cut until they're back playing. These contracts are out of control, man. It's crazy.
Yeah, within reason. I mean, yeah, if you're recovering from surgeries and that's the process, but yeah, I mean, it has to be fair to both parties. I'm 100% in agreement there.
So I could have $1 million contract, and if I did something to injure myself in the ring or out, your pay got cut in half if you wasn't back in 3 or 6. I think it was 3 months. And then in 6 months, it was another cut. And then a year, you are fired.
Wow. So now during the broken neck, they paid for surgery and rehabilitation and all that. Were you paid your, regular biweekly paycheck during that recovery time?
Yes. And if you remember, I remember
you signed the deal. Yeah.
I signed my big deal at that in the hospital. I mean, Eric Bischoff could have said, Mark, I'm really sorry. But I mean, let me tell you what he should have said. He should have said, Mark, let's see how this thing comes out first. And then we can talk about your contract. And I would have understood.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of guys that wouldn't have worked as hard as I did. I was back in the ring with a broken neck in 10 months, brother. So if I was under contract, I would have lost half pay for a couple of months, and then I wouldn't have lost my job because I was back in 10. And really, now I'm thinking about it, I was back on TV in 3, so I wouldn't have lost a dime. I was back on TV as Buck Bagwell with jeans and shredded with Scott Steiner in 3 months. So I wouldn't have lost a dime. But with me, and again, I would have understood if Eric would have said that. I'd have been upset, but I wouldn't have been mad. I would have understood. I didn't sign my contract. I went to Japan. I was supposed to sign it, and we were going to do it, and Erich didn't have time. That's another reason why he probably did what he did, but he didn't have to. And I would have understood if he would have said, hey, brother, let's wait and see what the doctor says here, and let's make sure you're going to be okay. But instead he said, no matter what, you can do something for us. And I know you can fit in somewhere and be Marcus Bagwell for us. So, you know, we're good. I'll send you the contract. You can sign it in your hospital bed. And by God, I did.
I mean, it was a big move for him. I mean, I think it speaks volumes of, you know, who Eric Bischoff is to do something like that. Cause you don't hear about that. I can tell you in 2024, it wouldn't be done that way.
No,
I don't think it's ever been done that way in the WWE. So
no, I mean, you know, the stories I hear, and like I said, I would have understood even if Erich would, I wouldn't have got mad. How do you get mad that you break your neck? The company's paying for it, and they're going to allow you to see if you're okay to come back or not. I'd have been like, yeah, I got you. Totally got you. But instead he said, you know, I think he was a little bit guilty of, I didn't get that contract in before Japan, but still legally my contract was up, and he could have said, brother, let's wait, see how you're doing. And then before we sign this, you know, $1.5 million deal.
Right. I mean, at that point, I mean, you were still wondering, am I going to be, I mean, I think at that point you probably were starting to realize you weren't paralyzed, but I mean, that could have gone either way. And I know the complications as well. I mean,
yeah,
you
I mean,
certainly
after the surgery, listen, after the surgery, which was a couple of weeks, and I'd already signed my contract, but after the surgery, I went to 3 doctors, and 2 of them said to never wrestle again.
Right.
And then I think we did one of these, I think we did a video on this, I think.
Yep.
And the 3rd doctor said, it was a woman, and she goes, yeah, you need to quit. And I was like, oh my God, I've got to quit wrestling. And she goes, but I want you to quit driving a car, never ride your motorcycle again. Oh, and don't take showers. And I go, what? And she goes, I'm telling you that you can get hurt at these things right here, the exact same, by falling in the shower and breaking your neck, by wrecking your car, by riding your motorcycle. So quit living life if you're going to quit wrestling. And I went, that's what I wanted to hear right there. That's the one. And I was back in the ring in 10 months.
Incredible. So we got a question here. When you first joined the NWO, you were going by Mark Bagwell. How did the nickname Buff Bagwell come to be?
Great question. I was going by Marcus Alexander Bagwell, which is my real name. And Dusty loved my real name. He loved it. My parents loved that I was called my real name, and I hated it. I just didn't. I remember Johnny B. Bad, Mark Marrow, used to drill me all the time. Too Cold Scorpio and Marcus Alexander Bagwell. And I go, come on, man. Now, several years later, Mark Merrill called me and apologized deeply because our careers had kind of reversed, and I was the big star. But Marcus, me and Mark have always been super good friends. But I remember the day he called me and apologized about doing that to me. But he did it a lot. He did it all the time, and the boys loved it. And he was right, though. It was a stupid name. It was my name, but it was not a good wrestling name. But it was my name. Dusty wasn't going to have it. He wanted Marcus Alexander Bagwell. So when the NWO thing happened, I knew it was a chance for me to do something with my name. I didn't know what. And I remember being on a flight, and it was me and Luger on a flight with everybody. But me and Luger were up talking. We were standing up in first class talking on a long plane ride, like from Seattle. And we're talking. I can't remember what names we had come up with yet. I can't remember what we came up with, but we were trying to throw names against the wall. And back in the back of first class in the dark, we hear, what about Buff? And we were like, what? And it's in the shadow, the light turns on, and it's Nick Patrick. Nick Patrick says, what about Buff Bagwell? And me and Luger went, Buff Bagwell. Oh my God, that's it. And it was just, every person that heard it just chuckled with happiness, like, oh my God, that's great. Everybody loved it. It was an instant good decision. It was an instant, not one person was like, I don't know about that name. It was perfect. It was perfect. But Nick Patrick is who named me on that. It's incredible. But Nick Patrick named me. So soon as he came up with it. But my goal was I didn't want to be called Marcus. I wanted to be Buff Bagwell, in this corner, right. Buff Bagwell. WCW wouldn't do it, brother. They wouldn't do it. They dropped Alexander and called me Marcus Buff Bagwell. And I carry that name to this day because it's like Dwayne The Rock Johnson, Stone Cold Steve Austin. I dig it and it makes sense. But they wouldn't drop it. They wanted to keep the Marcus, and that's okay with me. I ain't like I hate my name. I just didn't want to wrestle under my own name. Everybody wants to wrestle under another persona, like, Diesel, Razor Ramon, Sting, in this corner, Steve Borden. He didn't want that, you know? So it's something we all want to do, but I just had the chance. And it's tough changing your name. Believe it or not, there's not as many fans now. But I remember 10 years ago, there was fans that would say to me, I like Marcus Alexander Bagwell better than Buff. I don't think nobody says that anymore, but there is some fans that remember that old days of Marcus Alexander Bagwell with the spiked up hair and no goatee, no earrings, and just a rookie kid. And I enjoy it too, but it was a clean cut, good example of a rookie of the year guy, and that was Marcus Alexander Bagwell.
Sure. And it was a big difference, and you looked significantly different, but also it was a more mature look when you grew the goatee and you were now Buff Bagwell. It's interesting. I go back and I'll see when you brought the beard down a little bit towards the Buff Daddy time, you look much younger than you did, a year or two prior. So it made a big difference. You changed yourself a lot. But I think you mentioned Stone Cold Steve Austin, Dwayne The Rock Johnson. You've always maintained ownership of your name, and it's probably due to Dusty, having you use your real name, because I think to this day, Steve Austin does not own Stone Cold Steve Austin.
I don't think he does either. I know.
I think that's the recent dispute with him in the company too. He wanted Stone Cold Steve Austin, and they would not give him that.
And the truth is, with me, is I think somewhere along the lines I owned the word Buff, but I didn't know, and it was nobody saw Vince coming in to buy us, so I really believe Vince let me have my name. I really do, and I don't know why, because I told you this. The story is I had to get a lawyer to get my top hat back. I put one of my top hats on the road with the truck, so I had to carry it around everywhere. It
with
would
WWE.
It would be for the WWE. It would always be there on the trucks, and they wouldn't give it back to me. And I literally had to get my agent, Brad Small, to contact the WWF lawyers and get my hat back. And through all of that, I never had to say formerly known as. I never had to say that. I was Buff Bagwell on my very first stuff in Canada, in Australia with the WWA.
Wow. Well, I think, and I'm somewhat familiar with the laws on that, but I believe it's because even if they obviously they bought out WCW, but all the WCW guys, because they had previously used the name over there, or they had used it independent of WWF, WWE later on, you would in court be able to prove that we used it prior. So I think that's why Lex Luger, Sting, Goldberg, Scott Steiner, they never had that issue, because they started outside of the company before going in, under that banner. So
right.
That makes sense. Was this the same top hat that ended up being stolen that you had to fight to get back from the company?
Exact same.
You were cursed with that one from the start, it sounds like.
I was. And maybe it was because I haven't really gone back and looked at it, but I think that was my first and only red one. Like I had switched to red pretty late at WCW
Yeah.
because I've got a red one now, but
Right.
I don't have. This is my black one. I got my black one right here. This is my black one. I got a black one, but I don't, and I got a red one now, but
Right.
it's not the red one, and I didn't have a second red one during the run of WWF and WCW, but because it was over quickly, and then they got stolen. So yeah, that was the very first and only red top hat, and it's never resurfaced, brother.
Wow.
Crazy.
Someday you're going to be on Pawn Stars buying it back from Rick over there or something like that. You watch.
I hope so.
All right, let's see. So we've got, jump into another good one here. This one from Andrea Hill here. Hi, Buff. So proud of you. We see that a lot. And I mean, 2 years sober. You've come a long way, Mark. We're all proud of you.
I appreciate that. You know, this sobriety thing, man. I mean, look at this shirt. This guy gave me this shirt. Sobriety
Love
is
it.
my superpower.
Love it.
It really is, brother. I mean, I wake up excited about sobriety. I'm just, it's almost like waking up. You know how excited you are as a kid to wake up about Christmas. I mean, just remember that feeling, right?
Yeah, sure.
I swear to you, every morning I have woken up this past 2 years plus, I wake up happy that I am sober. Sobriety hits me instantly, and I go, and I'm thankful. I am thankful because, and not just thankful, I get excited like it's Christmas, like the day ahead of me. I don't gotta drink and have these pills and plan around them. And do I got enough pills for this weekend? And I mean, I did that for 20 years, man. And just to be honest with you, I truthfully feel guilty when I hear people say congratulations or proud of you, because everybody should be sober, you know? So, but it is tough. It's tough that once you do get addicted to something, that you do get your life. I mean, think about it. A lot of guys don't live to even tell about it. So I am proud of myself over it, and I'm glad, but I'm just very grateful to have a chance to see life through sober eyes. And by doing that, I've seen that I really enjoy life. And like I said, every morning I wake up, I get a little bit. I mean, if Christmas is a 10, every morning I wake up, I've got about a 6 in my stomach. Just a number 6, just because I'm alive, I'm sober. I'm gonna go work out. I got my podcast tonight. I get excited about life, man, and I live for sobriety. Live for it.
It's great to hear. I love that. And you're inspiring other people, and I'm sure you realize this, but we see it every day in the comments on the videos that you're inspiring so many other people that have struggled with, whether it's addiction or sobriety or other, things going on in their lives. You're doing a lot more good than just for yourself. And I think that, just speaks volumes of you, man.
Me and you talked about this, and I want to let the fans know, we're going to hit on a lot of this. We're going to go with a lot of this sobriety stuff. The sobriety is a huge part of my life every day. And I've got a lot of things to share with that. And we're going to really be talking a lot more about that, and excited to talk about it.
Absolutely. Yeah, we're going to be doing a lot of new stuff here on the channel. As we've started off here, we've talked a lot about behind the scenes and pulling back the curtain, so to speak, on Buff's career and, life in wrestling. But there's so much more to it, and we're just touching on little bits of it right now. But we're gonna tackle that stuff very soon too. We have some big plans, so I'm looking forward to that. I think it's gonna be a blast for us both, and for everybody else too.
Yes.
And now we talked about Christmas here, talking about sobriety being similar to Christmas, and this one, ironically, is sitting in here. Let's answer this. Buff, what's your favorite Christmas movie?
Man, well, first of all, Christmas is a very special time for me. I think a lot of people take that one, but it is. It's a very special time for me. So, growing up, at 3225 Trickham Road in Marietta, Georgia. 30066 is the exact address I lived at from 5 years old to 18. For 13 years, I lived there. And for 13 years, we decorated like the Griswolds for Christmas.
Really?
And I was Clark. I was I was that guy. You can do a little research on this. Anybody listening, you can find this. So one year we were always on the Christmas map to go see Christmas houses.
Okay.
And in Marietta, Georgia, they had where to go on the Marietta Daily Journal paper. There was a Christmas tree map that you would go see the houses that had decorated nicely. We had an acre pond. An acre's a big pond. An acre pond with an island. We had a 150-yard long driveway, a bridge, and then a mansion type Dallas, like the old show Dallas, white colonial columns, big brick, beautiful home, big, nice, beautiful mansion my parents had during their days of being wealthy, tennis courts, all that. And it was a great setting for Trickham Road, is the road in front of our house, to see our beautiful house. Well, one of the things we had was a floating Christmas tree in the lake. So imagine a T, okay? A T like this. Yep. And on the end of every T, there was like this. And on the end of every T, there was an inner tube tire. So at the end, and then the dead center where the tree goes, there's also an inner tube tire. So the tree floated in the lake, and we would tie string and drop cinder blocks so the tree could only float a little bit.
Yeah, in the same area.
But cars for 13 years, every year, would line up on Trickham Road. We had to hire the police to control traffic. And one year, and only 1 year it happened, 1 year, the lake froze over. And it was the most beautiful thing you've ever seen in your life. It was this tree that was frozen in the lake, but the lights from the tree are hitting the ice and it's coming back up off the ice. The house is reflecting into the ice of the lake, and the view, the picture, the click picture that went on the front page of the Marietta Daily Journal was incredible.
Wow.
And every year we'd add a little something to it. 1 year it was lights all the way up the lake. Lights all the way up the driveway. And again, this person did it. Lights around the lake was the next year. Lights on the bridge. We finally decorated the island along with the floating tree. Every year we lit up the whole tennis courts once. It was just, every year was that. So with all of that said, my favorite movie is The Christmas Vacation, because I am Clark W. Griswold when it comes to Christmas.
Wow.
And that's a true story. So Christmas is if you mention a fake Christmas tree within a mile of 3225 Trickham Road, you got shot at. So we had real trees with the shit falling everywhere on everything. But
oh yeah, of course.
But still, it was Christmas, man. You vacuumed it up and you cleaned up around it, and you had the smell.
The experience. Absolutely. Well, it sounds like a Hallmark card, with that scene that you outlined for us with
I've got that
frozen lake and all that.
It was really spectacular, and we would get, not thousands, but hundreds of letters each year, thanking us in the mailbox and, just appreciating the view. And that 1 year we did win the best. There were some good houses in Marietta, some real good ones. Only one kind of real close to us. You got out and walked it. It was such a pretty one.
Okay.
My dad wouldn't allow that because he'd be scared to mess up the grass. But but we won that one year when the ice iced over the tree. I mean, out in the lake, and so yeah. But Christmas is a great time for all movies and stuff. I just love it. But Christmas Vacation is definitely one of my favorites for sure. And it just reminds me of what Christmas is. You know, everybody, it really is kind of like that. It's miserable. Families get together and there's arguing and complaining, but at the end, you're still a family and all of that. So I just love that movie.
That's true. It's always a challenge. You got to survive the holidays, but yeah, I mean that's the Christmas experience. It can't always be smooth sailing. So,
no.
Much love from the UK here. And now, are you going to the UK? I think I saw that in the comments here.
Yeah, February. I think the guy that called me about the time, he told me he was going to be on tonight.
Oh, okay. Very nice.
He's a big fan, and he watches. I told you that's how I knew it was 6 hours. We're 6 hours ahead over there.
That's right.
But yeah, we're going. Me and Stacy's going with me too. So we're going. It's February. Okay. I don't know what day in February, but it's February of March of. No, I'm sorry. Wait, it's February of 2025.
Very nice.
Yes.
That'll be good. Is it London area? Do you know where in the UK?
I don't know where.
Okay.
I don't. It is. I'm pretty sure that it's. See what? Randy just sent me the information on it the other day. I can't. Wrestling. God darn, I can't remember the name of it now. But wrestling. Retro wrestling, or I can't remember now the name of it, but I'll get that and know it next time. But you know, the UK from way back, brother. I remember the UK always was big. I was very popular in the UK as Marcus Alexander Bagwell. Like when nobody really cared who I was over here, I felt like nobody cared. I was really a pretty big star in the UK. And that made me feel good. Like fan mail and stuff would come from the UK. And I was like, what? So, and when I would go over there and wrestle, I'd get a really big reaction. So I love the UK and really have related with the fans over the years. And I think they really have related with me too. And I just love those fans. I really do.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's been a while since I've been to the UK personally, but I always loved it over there. Always a blast. Even when the weather's not cooperating with you, it's always a good time.
Oh yeah.
All right, let's jump into another one here. I saw this one. Favorite memory of Miss Elizabeth. May she rest in peace.
Oh gosh. I got a bunch of great memories with her, but I think just the car rides we had. So it seems like 10 years, but it was probably 3. But for 3 years, me, Lex, and Liz were a family on the road. So Lex drove, and then I sat in the passenger, and then a cooler sat behind Lex, full of Coors Lights, and then Miss Elizabeth sat behind me. And that's how we rode for 3 years and just shared, life together, because you get to really know somebody on the road because you're around them a lot, 300-mile car drives, you get to talking and knowing each other very well. And so I don't really have one specific memory on Miss Elizabeth, just several hundred great trips sharing and talking about life.
Excellent. I imagine you just get to know people on just a crazy level when you're on the road too. So I can only imagine how close you guys, grew in those 3 years.
It's hard to hide anything I remember Miss Elizabeth was in the car the day I talk about knowing that I was addicted to pills. Like I remember I got in the car in Minneapolis, Minnesota. I can't remember the year, but I remember I got in the car and I didn't feel good. Like taking a pill or drinking a beer in the daytime wasn't happening. That was losers and alcoholics and drug addicts did that.
Right.
I woke up and I was feeling different. I was feeling funny, and I didn't know why. And I get in the car, man. Lex always kept the car freezing. I get in the car and I'm hot and I'm sweaty and I'm trying to fix the vents. And the more I think back on it now, I think Lex knew. I think Lex was extremely smart, extremely smart. I think Lex had already gone through this. I think he had already felt this way and just was letting me just see if I could figure it out the more I really think about it. Because at that junction of me starting to almost panic with vents and cracking the window and just not knowing what it is, as calmly and as coolly as you could say it, Lex said, if you take a couple of pills and drink a beer, that'll go away. And I went, what? And he goes, and the look of his face just told me to do it, because that's the look he had, was like, I'm telling you, bro, you know, this is what's going on. But I still hadn't put all of it together. And so I take a couple of somas and I drink a beer and it went away.
All right. So withdrawals.
Looking back on it, I was going through withdrawals.
Right.
And that was day one of me never really having fun again, taking pills and alcohol.
Because now you know you have to do it.
Now I gotta do it.
To not go through that feeling.
Yeah, I've got it. Now I gotta take them so I don't feel like that. And there went the beers after nitro. Now we're waking up. No, we still didn't do it in the daytime a lot yet. We still got our workouts in and all that. But it was the days were counted, and the days were numbered for sure of the days we didn't drink before nitro. I still, thank God, I don't know how, but I never showed up on TV drunk. I never messed that one up. But you know, right after I was trying to fix what was wrong, which was withdrawals from all day, you know?
Right. Well, it sounds like you were a functioning addict. So does that make it then harder for you to have that aha moment of, hey, I got to stop doing this, because you're still paying the bills. You're still making nitro, making thunder, doing everything you have to do. I mean, to me, it's got to make it harder for you to, you know, to say, hey, I got a problem. I have to stop now.
Yeah. Even my dad came to me and he goes, I know you got a problem. He goes, but what am I going to tell you, that you're doing it wrong? He goes, you look incredible. You live in a mansion. He goes, hell, I work for you. He goes, how can I tell you you're doing it wrong? He said, so they came at me with showing me how much money I was spending. And to this day, I never looked at it. Because I knew if I looked at it, I wasn't going to stop. And I'd have been really depressed on how much money I'd been spending. So I just never looked at the bill. I never looked at the money I was spending, because it didn't matter. I was in it, and I was going to stay in it.
So let me ask you this on the same topic. What was the moment where you said, I have to stop? You know, we talked about being functional addict, functioning through, you know, your job, your personal life. What made you say, I'm going to change right here, right now?
It had to be, it first hit me with the car wreck when here I am. Now I've crippled myself where I'm injured for the rest of my life. I should definitely be in prison or dead on this one. I should be one or the other, for sure. And that was hovering big, but it still wasn't quite enough. And then when Dallas came at me and said, if you don't clean up, you know, I'm out. And he was all I had left of wrestling. I'd blown every other possibility of anybody helping me with wrestling. And, you know, Dallas came to me and said, if you don't go to rehab, I'm done. I said, look, bro, I'll go, but I'm telling you, I can't sleep, you know. And I believe this. It was a story I tell myself, and Dallas has a lot of videos about that. And that was a story I told myself, that I couldn't sleep. And I said, I'll go to rehab, brother. I want to, ain't like I want to do this. I want to get clean, but I'm telling you, I can't sleep. So the aha moment I had through all of the, I'll go to rehab again and car wreck and all that blah, blah, blah stuff. The aha moment I had was I had slept through the night a couple of nights in a row at Black Bear Rehab. And I remember waking up at 6 a.m. and I'd looked at the clock and I'd slept for like 6 hours, which had never happened in the last 15 years. And I said, I may be able to do this. I may be able to do this. And I had a little bit of hope then, and that hope just got bigger and bigger. And when I got done with that 30 days, man, I was on the right track. And 2 years later, here I am,
Interesting. I mean, it's great to hear that for people because, some people, I know a lot of people that, attribute it to, Dallas Page as you have, but I think it really comes from you at the end of the day. I mean,
yeah, it does.
You came to that. Yeah. You came to that realization
sure
through those experiences.
Yes.
All right. Ever been to Ottawa, Canada, or anywhere close by?
I don't know Canada very well. I know I have. I've wrote Ottawa on my calendar a bunch of times, but saying close and knowing where I was at, a couple of things. When Canada happened, I was definitely in my addiction heavily. So, and marijuana was legal up there. So I was always sedated heavily when I was there, but I didn't really ever know where I was up there. I didn't understand.
Right.
Canada was kind of confusing to me with the way they call it, the territories or.
Yeah, it was funny. I was talking about that with somebody earlier today, and because it's not states, is it regions? Is it I never know the proper term for it, but
Me neither.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
So I was never.
You got your Ottawa, your Quebec, and then I'm not sure of the other ones, but
me neither. Me neither, and they're called something else besides what we're calling them, but they're.
Right.
It's very confusing to me. So I would say yes, but I don't know for sure. I know I was all over Canada a lot. Like, for example, Australia is a lot farther away, and I can tell you all about Canada. Melbourne's down here, or Melbourne, Sydney is southeast, Perth is out west. I can tell you all about Australia, and I can't tell you one thing about Canada. It's very confusing to me.
Yeah. On the East Coast, I know Montreal. Everything else is a question mark for me with Canada. I know where Toronto is, Vancouver, but
I know where Vancouver's beautiful, and I know where Vancouver is out there in the out west, but I really don't know where anything else is.
Yeah. Well, we'll have to figure that out. We'll get there one day. We'll take the channel up there for you.
Absolutely.
From Tommy B, my son Alexander appreciates your middle name. Please call him out.
I'm telling you, Alexander is a great name. My father was a power freak, and Marcus.
It's a powerful name. I was just thinking that very powerful name, Alexander.
Marcus meant great warrior, and Alexander meant leader of men. And so Alexander is a very strong, powerful name. Marcus Alexander is a powerful name. My dad thought of it for that reason. My uncle wanted to name me Thor and give me the big hammer, but they settled on Marcus Alexander, and I do. And I didn't like that name. Like I told you before, I graduated from kindergarten to graduation. I was Mark Bagwell. On the tackle, Mark Bagwell. On the touchdown pass, Mark Bagwell. It was Mark Bagwell. And then when I got in trouble with my mom or dad, it was Marcus. And like I remember being in class, and if the teacher called me Marcus, I was embarrassed. So now take that to 3 years after I graduated high school. I've got a man wanting to call me that for my name in a pro wrestling setup. And I'm like, I don't want to do that. I don't want that name. So that's where all that came from. So yeah, Alexander's a great name. What's up, Alexander? How you doing, buddy?
And we've got Dredrick here again. Good evening, fellas. Buff, you still suck. He always loves to tell you he sucks, but he's actually a big fan. So we'll let it slide, Dredrick. And we got a
Thank
couple
you,
from
Erich.
him. Judy Bagwell was a better wrestler than Marcus.
Hey, she was a one-time tag team champ of the world. She
and
was.
He's playing the hater today. So
I love it.
We appreciate it, Dredrick.
Absolutely.
And we've got Ryan Brown here. Marcus, I've been a fan of yours since your days as the handsome stranger in GWF. Congratulations on your sobriety. Also, the Blockbuster is one of my favorite finishing moves. Be well, brother.
You know, we did that video on the 5 finishing moves, and man, it was I really enjoyed it, watching it back. Great job on editing it. And it just, to me, it made a lot of sense. And I really, looking at them back, of course, I'm going to pick my move being number 1, but I wouldn't have put it in the top 5 if it wasn't. If you'd asked me to do that as Marcus Alexander Bagwell, when I had the Sprayberry suplex as my finish, which the fisherman suplex, I wouldn't have said that was the top 5, but the Blockbuster really is. I think it's top 5 because it's still getting used today. And I think that's really cool. But that was a really good video of the moves. And this guy remembers GWF, man. GWF was going to be the next big company, bro. I mean, we were on ESPN, and we were at a 4 o'clock time spot on Friday afternoons. Kids were coming home from school. They were coming home from school and turning on ESPN to watch The Handsome Stranger, and it was working. And man, in no time it was gone. But we really did think for a short period that we were going to do something with that.
And what led to it being gone? Is this I mean, this is a little bit after the territory started to, get absorbed by the WWF, but was that a part of it where, the top talent was being pulled to either WCW or
no,
WWF?
That didn't happen yet. For example, I got told it was over, and then WCW called me. So it wasn't like that. It was hell. I remember Dusty didn't even know what it was. When I went to saw him, I said, I was explaining what I was doing, and he goes, "Now, who are you doing this for?" And I said, "They're called GWF." And he goes, "I don't know who that is." And he goes, "But you need to go out and finish the tapings with them." And I said, "Come on, man, I don't want to do that. They're not going nowhere, Dusty." So he told me, that's when he signed me to like a going to school deal. But he, it was just a great time spot. But it really, I don't know why. I know there was a woman that had the money. I know they came into the Dallas Sportatorium and they really cleaned it up, painted it, and cleaned up the locker rooms and all that stuff. Because this building was where the Von Erichs, this is where World Class was, and this was this was their home territory, their home stomping grounds was right here. And I'm not sure where Carrie. I'm not sure when Carrie died, but I'm pretty sure he was alive when we first started that.
I believe it was early 90s, if I'm not mistaken. I'll have to look. I'll have to double check that.
That would have been 91.
Okay. Carrie Von Erich died in 93.
See, so he was definitely alive.
Yeah.
When I was at Global, but there was no talk of him or his brothers or anybody coming in. There was no Von Erichs there.
Okay.
And so I guess the other boys that are there now, they would be too young for that.
Mm-hmm.
But there was no Carrie or the other ones that were even there yet. But really, I mean, they had me a dozen new roses for every television taping. I mean, they had money.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden it was like they didn't have money. It was over,
Wow. It's unfortunate, but it's a story we hear often.
Yes.
Now, did you ever come in contact with Carrie outside of that organization?
So before Global ever happened, I was Missy had got me starting to get trained, and I probably had started doing some independent stuff. And she knocked on the door one night and opened the door, and it was 6'3", 250 of Carrie Von Erich. And I was like, oh my God, man, nice to meet you, brother. And this big jacked up dude, and talked to him for a minute. You know, back then there was no cell phones and cameras around, so no picture of it or anything. But I did get to meet him, shook his hand. And that would have been sometime early 90s, 91.
Okay. Interesting. It's always interesting to me to see, you know, who knows each other. And even to this day, you know, a lot of people, I assume mainly through the signings and the big events like WrestleCade and all that. But you meet people from different eras of wrestling that, you know, you never shared the ring with or worked in the same company with. But
Sure.
it's funny how close the wrestling community is, you know.
Yes.
But Carrie's a big one to have met. You know, very talented guy that unfortunately was gone way too soon.
Yeah, he was.
And I'll say this for everybody that's in here with us. We got, it looks like 83 with us at the moment. I don't think we've mentioned this, but we're working on a video that I think is going to come together. It's taken time, but it's going to be a nice, fun little project with Joe Exotic, who I think everybody knows from Tiger King. And Mark, I don't think you even know this, but he actually was friends with Carrie Von Erich back in
really?
Texas. Yeah, yep. So he had a pet store in Texas. I think that was his start into the exotic animal field, if you will. And Carrie was a big animal lover, used to come into his pet store all the time. And they became close friends. And that was his connection to wrestling. And our video is going to talk about Joe Exotic and his brief time kind of rubbing elbows with the wrestling world. So
that's great. I can't wait for that to come out.
Yeah, for sure. What else we have here? From Ryan Brown. I knew I was in serious trouble when my mom used my full name, Ryan Keith Brown.
That's it right there. Ryan Keith Brown, get in here. And this sounds like it's in trouble. Of course, with mine, my mom would say, Marcus. And I would say, Watus. and then you really got beat.
Sure. Well, we got to see her slap you around a little bit in WCW, and that was fun. That's actually, I made a little short edit of that for YouTube, and people really enjoyed that. Seeing her give you the slap, which you sold beautifully.
Absolutely. And I swear, I mean, I swear to you, we did not go over that. And when I watched that back, I can't help but to brag on myself just a little bit here. Dude, when you're not ready for a slap and you sell it that good, it just goes to show you're a damn good worker, man. I mean, because it was a good slap, but it wasn't that good. You know, just It was a good swing. But for me to sell it the way I did and go down the way I did, it made it look like a ton. And I swear we didn't go over that because I told you in the back, she wasn't even supposed to get in the ring.
Right.
You know? Right. And she wasn't even supposed to get in the ring. And I, you know, got her mad enough to get in the ring. And so the rest of that is 100% off the rails. It's just, we're just winging it. And then pow, you know? And so she did the ear. None of that was talked about. None of it. And it just really went over great. And she was instant star, man.
I mean, people still talk about her to this day. I think it's
hey,
phenomenal thing.
Today at lunch, I swear to Christ, today at lunch, a guy walks up to me and goes, hey, I saw your shirt, man. I was going to tell you congratulations. And Marcus, right? And I go, yes, sir. And he goes, Bagwell. I go, yes, sir. He goes, I'm a fan and congratulations on your sobriety. He said, but I got to tell you, he goes, I remember your mother ripping a phone book in half once. And I went, what's your name, brother? And he goes, my name is Ron. I can't remember his last name. His name was Ronson. But he knew my big house, the 3225 Trickham Road. He knew that house because he talked about being in my game room playing the pinball machine. We had a pinball machine. We're talking about 1980. You go to a house and there's a pinball machine and a tanning bed. That's two things you didn't see at houses. That's two things you didn't
Certainly
see at
not.
houses in 1980.
Wow.
And I had a Donkey Kong Jr. and Miss Pac-Man and all that's crazy. But
Wow.
we had a great house there. But he remembers my mother tearing a phone book in half. And that's a famous Marietta, equal to the Bagwell slap. It's famous in Marietta that my mother could rip the big phone book in half.
Wow.
Crazy.
Yeah, I wouldn't mess with her. I wouldn't mess with her if she could do that. That's
Absolutely.
intense. And from John here, watch the video on your independent time and you seem to make the most of it. Very down to earth. Yeah, I mean that was a good video. I really enjoyed your story on the indies. And I mean, you spent 20 years doing the indie thing, and I mean, you certainly did. You made good money doing it as well. And now the indies, I mean, you got to think about Cody Rhodes. I mean, he went down to the indies, and without that, I don't think he would be the Cody Rhodes that we know today. I mean, he totally changed the course of his career by going down to the indies. So yeah, I mean, it goes to show you that you can still do very well, you know, in the indie wrestling scene.
I really think if I would have been sober, I was definitely not going to get sober because I was mad. I was depressed about the WWF. But if I could have gotten sober and had somebody give me a little bit of a pep talk on merchandise, I could have got rich again. But I wasn't excited. I was just trying to pay the bills. I was mad about the WWF not taking me back or not keeping me, and just very, very, very hurt, very upset, and very addicted to pain medication. And with that said, I lost 5 years of not really knowing what I had with merchandise and stuff. And the story I tell is about the girl that walked up to me and said, "I've got 5 of those." I had one 8x10 that I carried everywhere I went. And she said she had 5 of them. And I said, "You got 5 of these?" And she was, "Yes." And that's an example of if I would have had, 5 or 6 different pictures and koozies and t-shirts and top hat, and some top hats and ball caps. And, I just didn't really know, but I could have really, if I would have embraced the indies properly, I could have got rich again.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, but it was kind of uncharted territory a little bit back then too. I'm sure nobody had really done it, on that level yet. So, I mean, it was early on too.
I was the first guy off our run to go to the indies,
Yeah, absolutely.
The first mainstream guy from the Monday Night Wars to go to the indies. And that's not a bragging right. That's bad. But I was that guy.
Sure. And from Dredrick here, Buff, do you have any Jim Cornette stories?
I'm kind of glad I don't, man. Jim's rough, brother.
He is.
I'm sure he has drilled me, but I don't think he's got any facts on me because we've never really been around each other. But man, Jim is.
I don't know that stops him, but
that's what I'm saying. It don't even matter. Somebody can tell him something, but I know that me and Jim always talked friendly when we saw each other and all that,
sure.
But that don't matter. And I've never had heat with so-called Jim, but I think I did hear there was, I think, one interview with him with, of course, the male escort thing. He had a field day with that one.
Sure.
But that was an easy one, man. That's like a watermelon coming with a snow shovel. That's an easy one, but he don't need easy ones. He's good anyway. But I'm a huge Cornette fan. But I was never around him. I was never around Jim.
Okay.
Very rare.
We got one from Shaw Dog here. Buff, since you knew Rick Rude in WCW, did he get along with Sting during the NWO days? Forgiving him for the back injury, mainly the ring's fault.
Wow, man, let me tell you, whoever this guy is right here, he know he's tapped
He
on
knows.
something.
Sure.
He's tapped on something I forgot about, brother. Do you know this story?
I do know this story. Yes, I do.
Whew, buddy, this story right here, let me tell you what you don't know. What you don't know is one day off Georgia 400, Rick Rude met Sting on the side of the road and with a gun in his hand said, "Hey, Sting, I hope you know, do the right thing at the hearing." So the ones that don't know about this, correct me when I'm wrong here, Chase, but Rick Rude injured his neck and there was some
Back.
big lawsuit,
I think.
correct?
Okay. Okay. Yes. Yes.
There was a platform that they were using at Japan or something,
Yeah.
and Rick's neck hit it and it caused some damage, surgery,
I think
something.
it was the back, if I'm not mistaken, but I could
Okay.
be wrong. But yeah,
So
yeah,
the
that's exactly what it
injury,
was. He went
the
out of the ring, hit it. Yes, on the way down.
hit this little ledge,
Right.
and he tried to sue WCW for it, is my understanding. And Sting had me and Sting were super tight during this. And Sting was having a really hard time with it, man. It was a big deal. Um, you know, Rick is a man's man. The story I've told you about Rude is I was the most scared of him wrestling in the ring of any guy. He just felt like at any moment he could snap and kill you, and there was nothing you could do about it. I was scared of Rick Rude, and he was nothing but nice to me and really liked me. But I was petrified of him. He was a man, brother. And I think Steve was a little bit worried about this one because Rick was tough. And Sting had to voice his opinion on this topic in court. And I'm not even sure how it went and what happened, but I do know that Sting was really upset about he was going to have to tell the truth, and the truth wasn't good for Rick.
Okay.
I do remember that. What do you remember out of this, Chase?
Well, I don't know it. I don't know it on that level, so I will take your word for it there. But I do remember, the spot that led to, what ended up being, I believe, his career-ending, injury. But he did finish the match. I remember that, and he finished it well too. I mean, he wasn't, it wasn't like he was hobbling along. He made it look really good. So I just
And
know it from.
this is during the time of that big insurance company. Do you remember the name of that insurance company that all the guys were getting $1 million deals from? Animal and all those wrestlers were in this big company. Sting was even a part of it, I think, where this big company was taking care of the wrestlers.
Okay.
And like Lloyds of London.
Lloyds
God,
of
my
London.
memory's incredible.
Wow.
Lloyds of London was an insurance company that Rude, Animal, I think Sting, but I'm not sure, Luger, several guys had these big insurance things with this company called Lloyds of London.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember, I was even looking into getting it because my peers were doing it. Sure. And it was paying off. And then something happened, and the wrestling thing, they got rid of all the wrestlers. They didn't want to deal with no of the wrestlers, like what typically happens.
Right.
Tell a wrestler, telegraph.
Yeah.
Same old story with wrestlers, but
Sure.
yeah, but at one junction, this Lloyds of London was a huge, big company that was insuring pro athletes. And somewhere there was a loophole of pro wrestling being real. And somehow with all that, guys were getting insured. And then when they would quit, and I think it really this really affected Rick Rude's insurance policy with the Lloyds of London with this stage thing. And that's why he also needed this to go where it mattered on what Sting said happened. And again, I don't remember the the ending to it, but I just remember that Steve was going to tell the truth, and that was going to make Rick Rude very angry.
But he approached him with a gun to
Yes.
see if it was going to go his way.
Yeah, to
Wow.
persuade Sting of saying, look, bro, basically saying, look, if this don't go this way, remember this gun, you know, without saying all that.
Wow.
He had a gun like in his belt loop while they met on the side of 400. Because they both lived, Rick was from Alpharetta, and so was Sting. They lived kind of in the same area. And they met on the side of the road one day, and, you know, no cell phones or anything. But
Right, of course.
Rude wanted to meet with Sting, and he didn't know why. They met. And when Sting met me at the gym that day, he was still pale white.
Wow. Unreal.
Because, I mean, I told you that Rick Rude just had an aura about him, man, that was just...
Yeah, there's an intensity there. You could see through the TV screen. I can only imagine being face to face with him, but wow. Yeah.
The other Rick Rude story I remember is Sting. We were in Saint Martin doing a wrestling shows.
Okay.
During Easter for Ric Flair's Gold's Gyms. And all the boys were mad because we were having to work on Easter. And half the guys didn't believe in God, but they were mad they were working on Easter.
Sure.
So, but we're down there, and I mean, we made, you know, with me, I made a vacation out of it. I took my wife, and several guys took their wife with them and all that. And on that trip, I remember playing cards with Sting in the back, and Rude, they brought the finish over, and Rude didn't want to put Sting over. And I remember Sting going, "Look, man, just you know what?" And Sting was the champ. Sting goes, he goes, "I'll just tell him, I'll let him win, let him beat me. I'm sick of talking about it." And that's kind of guy Sting was. He wasn't going to bicker and barter about who was winning and losing. It was just, if it made sense, you do it. If it doesn't, he wasn't no bicker, batter, back and forth and all that. So Sting just said, "Just beat me. I don't care. Just beat me." And so he went out and let him beat him because he just didn't care. It wasn't going to hurt Sting. And he just rather do that than have to hear it, you know?
Sure. Yeah, it's easier that way, I suppose. We've got Ryan Brown here again. Ask Buffy if he remembers the Bungee match between Chaz Taylor and Steve Dane when Maniac Mike Davis came back with a moonrock.
I don't.
Doesn't ring bells with me either.
What Bungee match? Now, Chaz was a really popular. I think Chaz was Tugboat's kid.
Okay.
Is my understanding. And he was a pretty good looking kid. He didn't have a good body, but he was a really good wrestler. A little older than us, but not much. A little older than me, but not much.
Okay.
But he definitely was a better wrestler than me, but zero physique. Just a kind of a, you know, just a kid wrestling. And the Steve Dane guy was a guy that was really good in the ring, but I don't remember and I remember Maniac Mike Davis, but I don't remember the Bungee match. I don't remember that with the moonrock. So I don't remember it, but I do remember the Soul Taker. I was wrestling Lightning Kid, and I was having to put a 160-pound kid over. I remember that. And I remember that the finish was this Jamaican guy that I think they call him the Soul Taker. It's the same guy that's the Soul Taker now, the big popular, you know, what's his name? He also was the pimp.
Godfather, but I forget his name.
His character out there, I think, was called the Soul Taker.
Yeah, Papa Shango.
Yeah, there you go. And he had some stuff he was going to blow in my eyes on GWF.
Okay.
I get to the top rope, and he goes, and there's nothing there. The sweat went in his hands. So I sell an invisible fog and fall into the ring and let a 160-pound guy pin me.
Well, You can't win them all.
Yeah. But remember, I complain about finishes all the time, you know?
There you go. And from Andrew Watson, keep the videos coming. You're such a good storyteller, bro. I'm driving from Dallas to Houston as we speak, and you're keeping me awake. Much love.
Fantastic, man. I appreciate that, Andrew. We're having a blast with this thing, man. I'm very grateful. You know, Chase came along, and I always knew there was something, you know, with this that you could do with a podcast, but it seemed like everybody I knew had a podcast and something, but they just wasn't making any money, you know? So
Sure.
it just seemed like there just wasn't really nothing happening ever with anybody, but we're having a good time and doing well with it and just very excited to be here. So thanks a lot, Andrew.
Absolutely. And we're going to try to, you know, as we said before, change some things up, improve and also expand a little bit. But we're going to be doing a lot more with other people as well that we'll be kind of bringing into the mix. We're going to be at a bunch of different, you know, events with other wrestlers too. So we'll have some more collaborations, if you will, which I'm really excited about too. We're going to be at WrestleCade in another week or so. So that'll be a blast as well.
And we're going to give a pillow buddy away for Christmas.
That's right. We'll be starting that so next week is Thanksgiving. I can't believe how quick that's coming now. But the next time we are live, which will be the following week, we will announce everything, and we're announcing it now, but we'll have all that information for you guys. And even tonight, we've got a bunch of signed WCW cards now. The first ones that we gave away, we hadn't signed, but I saw Mark 2 weeks ago, and we signed a whole bunch of these. So we'll be grabbing a couple lucky winners today at the end of this, and we'll keep that running every week. So looking forward to that. But the pillow buddies are great. I've got 2 of them over here, so we've got 2 to give away before Christmas.
Love it. It's gonna be fun.
Absolutely. And we got Ryan Brown here. Any Meng stories here? He scared me as a kid. He's an intense guy for sure.
Scary guy. Now, literally, if you ask 20 of your top wrestlers that would be considered tough, all 20 of them, if they had to pick 5 guys that were the toughest guys in this business, all 20 guys, 2 of their 5 would be Barbarian and Ming. Barbarian and Ming would be 2 of them, and Rick Rude would probably be 3. 3 of the 5 would be those 3 guys. Those 3 guys were animals.
Right.
Biggest teddy bears you ever seen, Barb and Ming, but just animals if it come to a fight or trouble. And also drug-free, didn't drink, all that. Crazy, just sober killers. And but Ming, I remember the teddy bear type thing, but killers. Sure. Ming and Barb were wrestling me and Scotty Riggs at the Dayton Arena in Dayton, Ohio. And I remember, I don't remember what day it was, but it was a Nitro. And I remember we were winning, and it wasn't good for Ming or Barbarian. They wasn't happy with this. These guys were teddy bears, but they were really a little bit caught up, and I hate it for them because they were a little bit caught up in the big thing. They were really big about, you know, the big man, and we wasn't big men, and stagger. And I believe in all that to a certain degree. And what my belief is stagger all you want. Time for the comeback. You bump. You go down crisp and hard and fast and feed. And that's how it works. Do all you want during the match, but when it's time for that comeback, you have got to bump, or the crowd's not going to come with it. And that was exactly what I had taken on this night. It was yes, sir, no, sir, getting everything lined up for the finish. And then we got time to call for the comeback, and it was me making the comeback. And they started that stagger thing. And I said, guys, please, man. I go, that don't work. And it didn't get ugly at all, but I had to bring Terry Taylor in and kind of give them the nudge to understand. And going out there, I wasn't sure, but when it came time for my comeback, they bumped good and it made a big difference. And I think even they learned something that night of, if you're going to put somebody over, to do it right, you've got to bump,
Right.
And they did bump, and it made a big difference in how the match was. And it was a great match. Ming Barbarian versus the American Males, and they bumped perfectly. But I do remember it getting a little bit iffy on the comeback of whether it was going to be. It would be no words. It was just going to be, I'll be upset about it.
Wow. Well, I remember. Has Jake the Snake ever told you the story about? I think it was Haku at the time biting a guy's nose off at the bar.
No.
So we'll be seeing Jake, I think, a couple times in the near future. Maybe we can get him to tell that story because it's a good one that he told on his podcast with Marcus. And I guess I'll briefly say my, from hearing it secondhand like that, but I guess a guy got in his face and kept persisting, and he was kind of pushing him off. And he said, "Get out of my face." The guy kept going, and he bit his nose off, spit it on the floor, and said, "I move your face." So I would love to get that. I would love to get that from Jake, though. The way he tells it is incredible. But
that sounds like me for sure.
Sounds like it. Okay. Yeah, I mean that's a wild story, but calm the whole time was my understanding.
Oh,
never raised his voice. He didn't have to. So.
No.
But I can only imagine biting someone's nose off, spitting it on the floor. I mean, where do you go from there?
Yeah, you go to the doctor.
There you go.
As fast as you can.
Now, speaking of doctors, a perfect segue here for this question. Does Buff remember being the Jamaican doctor on Nitro?
I do. I can't remember where it came from, though. This was during the time that my mother wasn't involved anymore, and then we had a doctor doing something. I don't even remember what it was about. And I was a Jamaican, but there was a doctor also, I think.
Okay. But I remember bits and pieces, but I'll have to refresh on that one.
I'm not vivid about it, but I do remember having the Jamaican stuff on and the braids, and it was a hat. The WCW had bought me a little braids and the Jamaican colors and all that.
Right.
But I don't remember why we were doing it.
I can visualize it and I can remember it, but yeah, I don't remember the angle. I don't remember where you were going to or from with it, but we'll have to refresh our memories on that one. Now here we have, thank you, Buff, for all the pro wrestling memories as a kid. God bless you. Always love seeing that.
Thank you so much, brother. I had a blast doing it, man. I really had a good time doing it, and it's fun. It's fun knowing that I was a part of something like that really people will go down and remember for a long time. So thank you a lot, man. Thanks for being a fan.
Absolutely. And from Ryan Brown again, I love the American Males, but the damn theme always got stuck in my head. I mean, that is something that people can't talk about the American Males without talking about the theme song.
But I think that's a good thing, I remember being a little embarrassed about the song, but Jimmy Hart was one of my biggest fans. Jimmy was always in there rooting for the young, good-looking guys where nobody else was, and Jimmy would be pushing like, "Come on, man, these guys are young, they look good, they're fun," and he'd be in there, really battling for us. And he came out with that song, and I was like, "Jimmy, what is this, man?" But again, I say this every time we bring this up, but that song, minus the lyrics, has got a great beat to it. It really does.
It's catchy. It is catchy.
It's really good. The music is just very tough. Just the words kind of mess it up. But the song itself, the music is really, because the American Male video, it's the music without the lyrics, and it's just me and Scotty posing and Harleys and football, American Male stuff,
right.
And it was an incredible video that I think they showed once. But a really well done, incredible video. A guy that worked for WCW did. Can't remember his name now, but oh God darn it, what was his name? Scotty Riggs would know. We'll talk to Scotty. We'll ask him.
Sure.
But he that's what put us together. That American Male video that we did. It was a guy shooting the video with me and Scotty for the AHA video for MTV.
Mm-hmm.
And then he worked for WCW and he was editing it. And Jimmy Hart was walking by and saw it. And he goes, "Who's that with Bagwell?" And they said, "Oh, it's this guy named Scott Antal." And so he goes, "Pull it back up again." So they find out he's working in Memphis and they bring him in as the other half of the American Males.
Wow. Yeah, it would be cool to talk to him and to do that, kind of go through your time with him, from start to finish like that. I think that would be a great, regular video here on the channel.
Yeah, it would be.
And we've got, let's see, from Don Bump here. How's your knee feeling? And do you think that you and Conan would have been a good tag team?
That's a great question. My knee's doing pretty good. It's just I didn't really get out of this thing what I wanted. What I wanted out of this thing was to have a fully functioning knee again, and that's not going to be the case. But thanks for asking. I'm just trying to get it as good as it can be. But the Conan thing, nobody's ever asked me that, and I never thought of that. So, I would have liked to have done some stuff with Conan, but we never did. He was kind of with he was in the NWO, but we may have tagged once or twice. I'm sure we probably did, but I don't have any memories of it. But really good guy. He was always a Buff fan, and I was always a Conan fan. So real good guy. Him and Disco have a very good interview podcast. It's pretty cool.
It is. Yeah, I watched that. They do great work over there. And then we have here, hi, Buff. I'm curious to know what made you want to come out in favor of the LGBTQ rights. I know you got a lot of flack for that, and it's a shame. I think you're a good man for sticking up for us. I love this. I think that's a great question, and great thing to stick up for too.
It was a thing that I even had a thing that said Buff is for everybody, and I just didn't see the point in arguing about the fact that if they want to be a certain way, then let's let them do it. I had a guy that was also that was running my channel or my podcast at the time. He was homosexual. He was gay. And so he was kind of guiding some of that, and I was catching a lot of flack from it. But truthfully, all I meant by it was I just want everybody to be happy.
Absolutely.
So if that's what you're wanting to be, if that's what happiness is to you, then I was supporting that. And that's what all it came down to was just, and I think we came up with some cool shirts like Buff is for everyone or everybody. And it was the rainbow colors and all that. So it was just a time that a lot of guys were really drilling it. And I thought, man, it's not that big a deal. Just if you guys want to do that, but now it's gone a lot. It's getting kind of crazy now with some stuff. Like I saw something recently where, transgender men are trying to say they can be in women's locker rooms. Have you heard this?
I have. Yeah. It's, I think it's a state by state thing maybe, but yeah, I have heard that a little bit. And then there's of course the controversy of, trans in different sports, which is always going to be a tough one to navigate. And there's no rule book on this. There's no way to guide stuff like this because it's relatively new. It's not stuff that we have, a long history with. So it's one of those things like I've seen, Dana White has talked about this with the UFC where, somebody that was a man and has now transitioned to become a woman is fighting other women in the octagon. And there's videos of what has been the result of this. And it's brutal, and stuff like that. It's so tough because, you want to be sensitive to everything. And I very much like you am, but it's really tough to navigate that in a
Yeah,
way that
it is.
protects everybody, you know? So
Yeah.
it's a tough thing, but I always love that you were, you know, a big supporter of the LGBTQ community. I think that's
Yes.
something that is important, and like you said, happiness is at the end of the day, I think the ultimate goal with everybody in life. You know, we all want to enjoy our time here, and if that's, you know, your thing, and if that's who you are, you should be able to be that. You know,
That's what I thought too, and
absolutely,
it got a lot of traction during the time. And I didn't
sure,
do it for traction. I did it because I was just telling what I felt. But people did tune in and want to hear about it, you know. But thanks for bringing that up. It meant a lot. Again, I am a
sure.
big supporter and just want everybody to be happy.
Right. No, and he's addressing that right here. It's not controversial for us. I think it's something that should be talked about, and that's one thing with YouTube and social media and anything. I mean, YouTube is an extension of you, and this is the Marcus Buff Bagwell YouTube channel. But at the same time, you know, you always want to be considerate of other people, and that's why we don't do politics on here. A lot of channels do, but it's one of those things where you try to navigate it in the best way possible to where, you know, both sides
Sure.
are not, you know, are not, you know, offended. But man, in this day and age, everybody's offended by something. So, you know, you have to take risks sometimes.
You
But
know, as sad as it is, and it is sad, but politics and religion will cause you a fight in any setting.
sure,
So it's just best to not go there. It's just best not to. I mean, um, it just doesn't get anywhere, and it just no matter what, everybody's going to have their way of what they think, and it's just going
sure,
to end ugly usually. So it's just best just to try to stay away from those two. And I hate that because now I don't stay away from the religion part of it. I make it very known that you know I believe in Jesus Christ. He's my Lord and
absolutely.
Savior. I believe that
Hmm.
He died on the cross at my age of his age of 33 years old. A lot of people don't know that one, but at 33 is when was when he died, and I believe that with all of my heart. That is what my higher power is Jesus Christ, my Lord and Savior. That's what I believe in my heart and soul is is what's made the oceans and the skies and the trees and the birds and
Sure.
us. I believe that's where it come from. And it don't mean that I'm going to dog out the way you believe, but you start talking about it and feelings get hurt,
Right.
and that's just the way it is in life. So
But I don't think it should be that way, and I
no,
think you should be able to speak freely about what you believe in, and anybody else should as well, and we
sure,
can all we're all adults. I think we should be able to have some sort of respect of, "Hey, that's your thing, that works for you, and I'm happy for that. This is what works for me," and we can leave it at that, and I think that in this day and age, unfortunately, that doesn't, you know, it's, "This is my belief, and it should be yours," and if it's not, we have some sort of heat. It
right?
doesn't make sense, you know?
It
And
doesn't.
we can all have a mutual respect, and I think it would benefit us all, you know, at the end of the day,
Yeah,
so
absolutely. It just you know it just again back to the happy. Whatever makes you happy, it's
exactly,
just
exactly.
go with that. You know that's the best way to go. And just if happiness is what you know what you get from that, and then that's what you do.
Absolutely. I totally agree, and I see this one here, and this is jumping out at me because trying to stop the soda myself. I got a pop addiction. I drink at least, a 2 liter of soda a day. That's a tough one, and it's one of those things that there's all types of addictions out there, and it's not just drugs and alcohol. There's people that, you know, have trouble with food. There's people that have trouble with soda, and I think it's important to shout that out too. So thank you, Cade Riley, for that one. I'm trying to cut down myself on soda pop.
So let's talk about that for a minute. So what are
Sure.
you doing to cut down?
Well, I've grown up where alcohol was not a part of my family lifestyle at all. My father didn't drink, mother didn't drink, so soda and sugar was and carbs, because we're Italian. Not that I look Italian, but that was the big thing for us. So food and soda is my issue. I drink. At times, I've drank as much as 12 cans of Diet Pepsi a day, and I am trying to cut back to right now 2 a day is my goal, and then eventually I'd like to just stick to water, because just everything that's added into, and we actually talked about this the other night, all the different chemicals that are in our food in the United States. It's such a concern to me, but it's also tough to stop. A habit that I've had for now my entire life. So,
Hey, it's coming to a stop, brother.
yeah,
You know
that's what
that,
I've
right?
heard. I do.
Hey,
I do.
JFK, brother, it's coming to a stop.
Yep.
I mean, Fruit Loops in Canada are beige because they can't put stuff in their food that we put in, and it's changing with JFK. He's coming in and he's going to make these things happen. Coke is getting ready to hit a big bottom because of this. And we have a family member that works with Coke, and this is hurting them. There's going to be layoffs and stuff because there's stuff in these things that are bad for us. And there's going to be cutbacks from it, and JFK is he's going to show that, where there's definitely things that shouldn't be in these sodas and different type of foods that we have that taste incredible, but really do make a very unhealthy American lifestyle.
100%. Yeah. And it's in everything. It's in food. It's in every, the way that food is processed. I mean, it just goes very deep into everything in our country. So I very much look forward to, all of that getting removed, or at least tightened up on, and improved for us, because, we are one of the, we have the highest obesity rate of any other country, I believe. And, a lot of that is due to the food that we eat and what's
But when
available
I
to
hear
us.
of this soda pop addiction, I think he means he's drinking a regular sugar soda.
Could be. Yeah, could be.
That's my belief. I just don't believe, even though sodas are bad, I think if you do a diet one, I really do think they're less bad.
Right.
I do think they're less bad. So
I'm sure. Well, you don't have all the sugars, but they do say that because there is still a sweetener involved in that,
and that's the sweetener they say is worse, right, for you.
That's what they say. But now I know a lot of them. I think aspartame was one that was a big issue health wise, and I think that's been removed from a lot of the stuff now.
Okay.
But one thing gets removed, something else goes into the mix. Sure. So. But I figured water would be the safer bet. So if I can reduce it, not totally eliminate it, but reduce it a little bit for myself anyways, I think it would, make a big difference.
Absolutely.
But yeah, the sodas, the regular Coke, the regular Pepsi, etc. Those definitely are just loaded with tons of grams of sugar.
It's crazy.
For me, it's always the aftertaste of those too that I'm never crazy, but I think the aftertaste almost makes you want to drink more just to get rid of that, because the taste going down is much better than the taste you end up with.
Which soda pop do you drink, Chase?
So I know I'm gonna get the kick from Stacy, but I'm a Diet Pepsi guy. But that's the only Pepsi product I like is the Diet. I like regular Coke better than regular Pepsi. I like Sprite. I like Dr. Pepper, and I believe those are all under the Coke umbrella. So
yeah. Have you ever had a Diet Mountain Dew?
I have, yes. Actually, at your house, I've had a Diet Mountain Dew.
I think that's to me, I think the two best. Yes. And I've drank about 3 of them my whole life, but I think the best one is Diet Dr. Pepper. But for some reason, I
have a fridge of it here.
Do you?
I do. I like Diet Dr. Pepper. Yeah, I'm always been a diet soda guy. My father was always a diet soda guy as well. So that took. But
I mean, Diet Pepsi is my least favorite. Really is.
Okay.
But Pepsi on ice, a real Pepsi on ice, I'll give it a run for the money with a regular Coke on ice.
Sure.
But the Diet Pepsi is horrible to me.
Really?
Everybody's different, but
For
yeah,
sure. And I
never
think
have.
it's what you're used to too. Like for me, because I started drinking Diet Pepsi at a young age,
Yeah,
more so than Diet Coke. I think it's what you grow up on too. And
yeah,
I know it's the same with other things too.
yeah. Luger got me on the Diet Mountain Dew early because that was the highest caffeinated drink there was before Monsters and all that in 1994. Before Monsters, before Red Bull, before any of that, we went to the gas station and got a Diet Mountain Dew, and it had 65 grams of caffeine in it, and that was the most thing you could find besides coffee to drink for workouts. And so that's what got us on it. But then even to this day, a Diet Mountain Dew literally quenches my thirst more than a Diet Coke or a Diet Pepsi will do, or even a Diet Dr. Pepper. Something about that clear, kind of yellow clear liquid.
Yep.
It does better with me. I don't know what it is.
Okay. Yeah, I enjoyed the Diet Mountain Dew, and I try to get my wife likes regular Mountain Dew. I try to get her to do that one, but
while we're talking about it, I want to show you this new protein, brother. It's called
excellent.
Blackstone.
Blackstone.
This guy I meet out at Colorado Alley brings this protein to me, and I bring it home. Like, why am I bringing this home for? I bring it home. It sits in my cupboard for a month, and I'm a big Isopure guy. Zero carbs, Isopure. And then I run out one day, and Stacy's like, "You got that other protein?" I was like, "Oh God, let me look at it." So I look on the back of it, and there's only 2 grams of carbs per scoop. So for 50 grams of protein, there's 4 carbs, which is nothing. I tried this shake. Oh my God, brother. It's the best shake I've ever drank in my life.
Really?
I find the owner, I call him up and I go, "Brother, how can I be a part of this?" So coming up, we're going to have a QR code you have on our channel here, and we're going to be promoting Blackstone. This is a pre-workout drink and stuff. The best protein shake, low carb, not just low carb, almost zero carbs is what I do. Best tasting shake in 35 years of shakes. Mark it down, Blackstone. I'm telling you, man, this thing, vanilla's one of the best, but they got, this one's like a fruity pebble one. This one's called Unicorn Milk, and it's like a fruity pebble taste, but vanilla is always the best in all proteins. Vanilla, chocolate, and this one's called Unicorn, but the best protein shake. Keep in mind, you got to find a shake that you're not going to get sick of. You may taste it today, but tomorrow strawberry may be horrible, or a week from now. You got to find one that a month from now you can still do.
Sure. That's one of the things I've struggled with. I've tried a bunch of different shakes in the past, and the taste has always been, the issue that I struggle to overcome. So I will have to get some of that and give it a try, because that's what'll make me stick with it long term. If the taste is right, I'm game.
Yeah, if you don't like the taste, you're not going to stick to it. You're not going to do it.
Right. You can get through it for a little while, but it's not going to become, a part of your routine if you're really at the core of it all, just don't enjoy drinking it.
That's it.
And this jumped off the page at me here. You should do workout videos. Now, I feel like this person was tapping our phones, because we just had this conversation last night, I think.
Yes.
And we are going to do that. I had the pleasure of working out with Mark about a month ago. And I'll say this. I saw Brian Knobs the day after you were here in town, and I took a picture with him and sent it to a few people. And I think I sent it to 5 people, and all 5 said, "Have you been working out?" I said, I've been doing what I've been doing arms, exactly what Marcus Bagwell told me to do in the gym. And all 5 people that I sent that photo to complimented on a increased bicep. So
I love it.
we'll have to dive into
We
that
did.
more
We did
here.
buys that day. That's
We
right.
did, and I've been doing the same thing in the gym. This past week has
And
been a
boy,
tough week for me, so I haven't been at the gym this week, but I'll be back on it next week for sure.
I got a compliment on my arms the other day, and I had one of those in years. And it was Stacy's daughter, and I was reaching like this. I was reaching for her son or something, and I was
Yep.
reaching like that, and she went, "Oh my God, your arm looks big." And I went, "What'd you say?" And I go, "Thank you." She goes, "Oh, what?" I go, "Thank you." I told Stacey, I told you my arms are getting bigger. I said,
That is good. I
absolutely.
mean, imagine Buff Bagwell with big biceps. I mean, come on.
Right. That don't make sense, does it?
So we got a couple more questions here I want to hit, and then we're going to call it a night here. And first off, I appreciate everybody jumping in here with us. We will be back not next Thursday, but the following Thursday, of course, due to Thanksgiving. But we'll also be together the following day down in North Carolina. So if anybody's in the North Carolina area, we're going to be at WrestleCade down there. That is what, the 29th? Is that the right date?
Convention Center 29 and 30.
Winston-Salem, right?
Winston-Salem, North Carolina, and it's the convention center right there on Cherry Street.
And everybody's going to be there, it seems. I mean, and the list, even now, a week out, is still growing. I mean, I just checked the the list of guests that are going to be there, and it just continues to grow. They've got some guys from AEW going, MLW, TNA. I think TNA is actually doing a taping there. Or no, it's actually their pay-per-view that they're going to be doing out of the venue there.
Great.
So let's hit these last couple questions. We've got Judy Bagwell on a pole match. I feel like this comes up every time we do this, but that was a Vince Russo idea, correct?
Yes, it was.
All right. And then we've got, where did you get the idea of your top hat? I think we've touched on this, but I'll let you hit that one quick.
Yeah. So when I broke my neck, I was really scrambling for things to keep me alive, like popularity wise. I lost 50 pounds, and so I came up with the overalls to cover up on TV until I could get my mass back. I could not touch a weight for 3 months. 3 months is the longest I've ever gone in my life without touching a weight. And I had to go 3 months to let my neck heal naturally all the way. Nothing, zero supplements, zero workout, nothing. So 3 months, I lost 50 pounds, and I learned how to come up with overalls to kind of hide my body. And also during that time, I created the top hat. And my mom came up. I just actually, me and my wife saw the actual hat and tried it on one day. And my mother thought of that. She goes, "You should put your face on the top of that thing." And I did, and it made a bunch of hits with me out there on TV. Like, look at there's two of us, and I had a blast with it, and it really worked really well. But from the broken neck is where those ideas came from.
For sure. And you are directly connected with the top hat. I think the same level that Slash from Guns N' Roses is. So
Absolutely.
it is stuck with you. Who came up with the lyrics to your entrance on Buff on the Stuff and the Girls Can't Get Enough?
Well, the lyrics came from me because it just rhymed. I came up with it, but I'm not sure where it came or when I made it all make sense. But it started with just, I'm buff and I'm the stuff. Mm-hmm. And then I think I was just having to ramble it off one day, and it worked. But I said, I'm buff, I'm the stuff, and the girls just can't get enough. And it just kind of worked, And then when Jimmy Hart did my song, then we put the lyrics in there too, and we ran with it.
Excellent. And from Ryan Brown again, did you get along with Chris Kanyon?
Chris Kanyon was a great guy, great worker, super nice guy. The only time that I felt like there was even a little tension was when he was running the show in Canada on the movie. We talk about
Ready to Rumble.
Ready to Rumble. And he was a little bit unhappy with me not wanting to be in that movie. But I get it, didn't have a speaking role or anything. But Kanyon did a really good job with the Dallas thing and taking care of my mom and diamond cutting and just everything he did. So big, I was a big Chris Canyon fan, and he was a great guy. I really miss him. He was a great guy.
Now I'm going to add a question. We talked about LGBTQ earlier in the live stream tonight. Did you know that he was gay back then, or was this something that was news to you all those years later when he came out?
Great question. I never was in the same car with him or anything, but I know that guys that were blown away. So, and not in a bad way, just
Sure.
They just didn't know. They were like, what? So again, I didn't hang, you can't hide things on the road.
Right.
If you're a drug addict and you room together, you're going to find out you're a drug addict. If you're an alcoholic and you room together, you're going to find out you're an alcoholic. You just can't hide it on the road. You can't, because you're spending the night with somebody and waking up with them, and you're going to see who that person really is. And, I was never around Chris like that, so I don't know. But the Chris Canyon I was around, the only thing that he had that I saw he battled with was his lisp. He had a lisp that he kind of battled with, but did very good with it. But it bothered him. I did not know he was gay, and nobody that I know knew he was.
Okay. All right. Well, that's what I kind of figured, that he kept that close to him. He kept his cards close on that. But it was a different time too, and it wasn't as accepted as nowadays.
There wasn't those initials for sure.
Right.
LGBTQ, that was not happening, and so it was a different time for sure.
Right. Right. So it makes sense that he would have felt like that. Maybe that was something he had to keep close to him.
Yeah.
And then from Ryan Brown, I myself had a bad addiction to pornography. I always thought pornography addiction isn't a real thing. I was wrong. I belong to an addiction group through my church.
Wow, that's a good story. So let me tell you a story about that, Ryan. I want you to listen to this. And you probably won't believe it, but I'm going to tell you the truth. I have never, ever in my life, on my own, typed it to go to a pornography thing on my computer or on my phone in my entire life. I love sex more than anybody, just as much as anybody else does.
Sure.
But I don't know what it, and I don't have anybody. I'm not against pornography. I don't have any kind of judgment or anything. I don't even know the answer why. I just thought of this when I read it. I never even told Chase this, but I have never, ever logged in to see a pornographic anything. If I had to type in to get pornography on my computer or my phone within 5 minutes or I was going to die, I would be one dead MOF. I would be dead, brother. But I hate that. That's an addiction now. I'm glad you're going to church to try to fix that. That's huge. I can imagine it being something easy as and you can see it. I can see that being a pretty good, easy thing to do. So good luck with that, brother. And just I think as long as you have that church in your background there, man, that'll really help. And hopefully you can see and that Jesus is your Lord and Savior. And I think there's nothing he can't help. So good luck with that.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, we talked about, unconventional sort of addictions a little bit earlier today in the stream. And yeah, I mean, they exist. That's another one that I've never gone down the rabbit hole on, but I could see anything that's convenient and easy to get that satisfaction, I think is something that can quickly become an addiction. And now, with food, I know Uber Eats is a big one for people because it's right there on your phone. You can have food delivered right to you any time of day.
Sure.
It's that convenience thing that can, get out of hand for you. So
absolutely.
And Wrestling with Gaming, Lloyds of London is the company. Yes, yes, that was the one. So we'll have to look at that. I think that would be a good video. You shed some light on some good stuff there.
Well, we do need to look at that video. Again, I'll start remembering a little bit more about it, but
sure.
I do remember it was, rude, animal, Kurt Hennig, now that I'm remembering. So I think Sting was too, and Luger even, or when they were starting to do it. I remember I didn't do it because something happened with Luger and Sting and these guys to where it all kind of fell through. But for a long time, these guys had some pretty big payouts from being insured by the Lloyds of London.
Yeah. And I remember some of that too. And I remember that was like a stipulation that Rude couldn't wrestle for a period of time during this as well, going through the litigation or whatever. So
That's right.
yeah, I think that would be something to definitely do a video on and get some other people involved on it. But I gotta bring up my buddy here, Wrestling with Gaming. This is Yahel. So Yahel has a YouTube channel where he does documentaries on video games, but we became friends, and turns out he used to be a pro wrestler, and he was trained by Bubba Ray.
Really?
Yeah. Yep.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. So he had told me a little bit about what that was like, and yeah, we'll have to do something with him in the future on maybe like a one of the games that you're featured in or something like that, because he does these amazing documentary videos on YouTube. I mean, massive channel, really amazingly talented guy on here. So we'll definitely have to, yeah, for sure. But thank you guys so much for jumping in here. And there's a lot of familiar faces. Sorry we couldn't get to everybody, but Mark Hewitt, great guy in here as well. Definitely a lot of familiar faces here. Walker, 1984. Caffeine is a major addiction as well. I'm familiar with that one.
Yes.
Antonio. Yeah, thank you guys all so much for joining us tonight. And we'll be back in not next week. Wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving, but we'll be back the following Thursday right here on YouTube. So
yes, man, everybody have a great Thanksgiving for sure, man.
Absolutely. And thank you guys for joining us. We'll see you guys real soon. We'll have some videos out in the meantime, and we'll have some great stuff from WrestleCade next weekend as well. So thank you all so much for joining us. We'll see you guys real soon.
See ya.